Yeah, food can have a massive effect on our sleep, and it can, through various pathways actually. Um, Basically, what we eat, what we digest and absorb is the building blocks for everything in our body. So it's, it produces our physical structure, but also produces our neurotransmitters and our hormones, which can have an impact on sleep. And also certain minerals and vitamins can impact our sleep levels as well. And even the state of our blood sugar can affect our sleep, and the levels of inflammation in our body can affect our sleep. So diet has a dramatic impact on what's going on at night time, as well as what's going on during the day.
Yes, and you're a medical herbalist, so you don't just look at, giving people a herb or a tincture to get them off to sleep. You look at the whole body, don't you? And you look at what the body needs and what might be best for a person. What are the kind of things that you would suggest if somebody is suffering from insomnia, which I think a lot of people are right now?
There's an awful lot of people having problems with their sleep at the moment. And, sometimes you can remedy it very simply. So, if somebody just has a bit of an overactive head, you might give them a herb like valerian, or even some chamomile might be enough just to knock them over into a good night's sleep. So sometimes using a simple herbal remedy can be enough. But the majority of people that are coming to seek help from practitioners like myself often have very entrenched problems going on with their sleep. And in that situation, it's not enough just to give a herb to try and relax. We actually need to look at what's going on during the day as well as the evening and through the night. So you have to look at a 24-hour period and not just a sleep period to try and help with a chronic sleep issue. I think a lot of people are aware now about, evening, what do we talk about, bedtime hygiene or sleep hygiene, where we're trying not to look at screens at night, where the room should be properly lit, that it's a nice relaxed environment. But sometimes that's not enough either. You really have to look a little bit deeper and dig deeper. And particularly if you're looking at somebody with patterns where it's not just problems getting over to sleep, but problems staying asleep as well. And then we need to be looking at, what's happening during the day. If somebody's waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning, what's happened at 3 o'clock in the afternoon? You can bet that there's probably been a bit of an energy slump happening at that time, or possibly a bit of a low blood sugar. And what we're seeing is almost like a roller coaster effect, that it's then impacting into the night time. So we need to look at that whole 24-hour period, and not just the moment when you go to bed. We don't just suddenly switch off like a light switch. It's a continuum, a continual process that our body's going through.
Yeah, because that's the misconception, isn't it? That you go to bed and then you're just supposed to drop off and get a good night's sleep. And maybe having a cocoa at night or something like that, or a warm milky drink, it can help.
It can help because, milk's very rich in an amino acid called tryptophan. Yeah. And tryptophan helps our body to make serotonin and melatonin. So having a warm milky drink can sometimes help you get to sleep. Having some honey at bedtime can help you get to sleep. One of the things that we don't consider, a lot of people sort of think you go to sleep and you're resting. Actually, when you sleep, there's an awful lot going on. It's actually the time when our bodies repair. And so you actually need quite a lot of energy to sleep at night. There's a lot of metabolic processes take place then. So you actually need to have really good fuel on board to actually sleep effectively.
See, that's not something that people really talk about, is it? I don't often hear people saying you need to fuel your body for sleep. But it kind of makes sense, because your body is doing an awful lot when you're lying in bed and hopefully sleeping.
Yeah, there's lots of detoxification going on. There's lots of regeneration going on. It's when we build and repair ourselves. So there is a lot of energy that gets used up at night time. And actually eating properly and fueling your body properly can have a massive impact on the quality of your sleep. One of the things that I'll always do is dig deep into somebody's diet with them. And what we'll often find with somebody that has a really entrenched insomnia, or possibly anxiety, panic attacks, that sort of thing, is we've got a real imbalance going on with their blood sugar levels. And we're seeing lots of things like reactive hypoglycemia happening. We're having sort of sugar swings that are then leading into quite a lot of adrenal activity. Now, we know that fasting is good for us, and we know that sort of extended period of fasting can be helpful. So, you know, doing maybe 11 or 12 hours overnight can be good. But I see people in clinic that are coming in that are, you know, getting up, doing a whole day's work. They're not eating at all during the day, or not eating properly, and they're maybe having coffee or, you know, grabbing biscuits and sweets and things like that. And then they're wondering why they don't feel well, they're not sleeping properly, etc. So what we need to do is we need to actually give our bodies really good quality sources of protein, good qualities of omegas. We need, you know, lots of foods that are really high in good minerals as well. So particularly magnesium, I think, is one for us to look at there. So we need to fuel our body effectively. Yes, having a bit of a fast can be good, but actually fasting from, you know, 8 o'clock one night to maybe 5 or 6 o'clock the next night is not a good way to function. And actually taking lots of stimulants and processed foods is really, really bad for you as well. So one of the key things we need to think about with insomnia is balancing our blood sugar during the day. And I'd say the typical sort of presentation that I would see is somebody coming in who's maybe skipped breakfast. At lunchtime, they've grabbed maybe a sandwich, had a coffee, middle of the afternoon, their blood sugar drops. And actually what they're then reaching for is something sugary. And then, you know, evening might be some alcohol, or they maybe have a pudding or something like that. And so they're just constantly propping themselves up with sugar. But every time their blood sugar drops, they're actually going to release some adrenaline into the system, because the fastest way to get blood sugar back up, as well as eating sugar, is actually releasing a little bit of adrenaline. And that's where the whole roller coaster comes in, where, you know, we'll often look at, well, 3 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. It's really good to look at 12 hours previous and see what's happening there.
And that's really interesting. And so it's not just a question of having a warm milky drink or a cocoa at bedtime. That's not necessarily going to help you. And it's not just a case of taking a herb, but there are plenty of herbs out there that you can take if you just feel that you need to relax a bit to get you off to sleep.
Yeah, there's some really good traditional remedies that we have at our disposal. We have valerian, and valerian's a really nice relaxant. We call it a tranquilizer. It puts you into a state of tranquility. It's very calming. It helps the body to relax. There's another herb called skullcap, which is really good for relaxation. Using, as I say, things like chamomile can be helpful. Hops are nice and sedative as well. So using these sleepy herbs at bedtime can certainly send us over into a better sleep. But if you're somebody that's waking up, say at 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, or waking frequently, what you actually need to do is think about some herbs to support your adrenal system a little bit more. And that's when we would use some nourishing adaptogens. So herbs like ashwagandha, for example. Ashwagandha botanically is known as Withania somniferum, and somniferum comes from its tie into inducing a good restful sleep. So ashwagandha will encourage restful sleep, and through that give us more energy during the day and allow us to cope more effectively daytime. Another herb that can work on the adrenal pathways is rhodiola, and rhodiola can really help again for that sort of wakeful sleep pattern when it's disrupted through the night. And sometimes what we need to do is think about using herbs that will get you off to sleep, but also help you stay asleep by supporting the adrenals. So using a combination of herbs can be really, really effective.
And what about the medicinal mushrooms? They're adaptogens. Do they help if you have a, I don't know, something like reishi at night? Would that help you?
Yeah, reishi is known as spirit mushroom, and it is nice and relaxing as well. It can help with high blood pressure. It can also help to reduce histamine levels. And histamine is very stimulating. I think it makes our heads feel a little bit hissy, and can actually disrupt sleep patterns as well. So histamine is actually an excitatory neurotransmitter. And so using something like reishi, the red reishi, the Ganoderma, can help with sleep problems. If you go to a pharmacy and ask for a sleep remedy, if you were to buy conventional Nitol over the counter, it's actually an antihistamine. So one of the side effects that we have when we take antihistamine medications is that they can make us feel quite drowsy. So Nitol has been produced because of the side effects of that particular drug, the side effect being an effect that some people want, that they'll actually sleep better. So if you're somebody that has, you know, you're quite a hyper person, quite a stimulated person, somebody that's maybe quite allergic, high histamine type, then actually using things like reishi mushroom, chamomile, some of the more antihistamine remedies could be very useful. There are other medicinal mushrooms, and I know you're a big fan of mushrooms like I am, JJ.
I am.
But cordyceps is one that I would think about using if you're looking at somebody that's really adrenally depleted. And I would then think about using cordyceps daytime to try and encourage really good energy during the day. And lion's mane has a good effect on the nervous system as well. So again, if somebody's very stressed, lion's mane mushroom could be helpful. But basically what you want to be looking at is day and night. You want to get some really good energy in there during the day, perhaps even use something quite stimulating during the day and then something quite sedative and sleepy at night. You really want to get those two coming in together. So good daytime energy, nice restful sleep in the evening. And so sometimes that's how I work with people. I'll actually give them a day mix and a night mix to use.
You see, that's interesting because I have never heard anybody talking before about insomnia in this way, in the sense that you look at the whole picture instead of just saying, well, here's a sedative, take it at night before you go to bed.
And that tends to be how conventional medicine works. And doctors are very reluctant to prescribe medication for sleep. They use this one drug called Zopiclone, and some people can get that for very short-term bursts, but GPs just don't like prescribing these medicines because they're really quite strong and they can be quite addictive as well.
Yeah.
I mean, we need to think about lots of things. We need to think about nutritional status, nutritional deficiency. Being low in magnesium can have a massive disruptive effect on your sleep patterns. It can contribute towards restless legs at night, and it can contribute towards that wakeful, restless sleep that some people can have. High histamine levels can contribute towards insomnia. Being low in estrogen, so that's the classic sort of coming into menopause.
Yeah.
And it's not just about hot flushes. Probably when I was about 48, I started to have problems with my sleep, and I couldn't pinpoint what was going on. It just seemed to come out of nowhere. And then I sat down and thought about it and thought, I'm probably heading towards perimenopause. Took some phytoestrogen. So I took a soya isoflavone supplement, and within about 3 days, I was sleeping like a baby again. So being low in estrogen can have a massive impact on our sleep quality. And I wasn't having insomnia because I was having hot flushes. It was just that there was a gap where I needed some estrogen, and my nervous system just didn't like it. And I was just feeling a bit stimulated because of that. The other thing that can have a really detrimental effect on our sleep patterns is inflammation. And inflammation produces inflammatory cytokines in our body, and that can really disrupt our sleep. It can disrupt our weight. And so people end up caught in this pattern of not sleeping, gaining weight, getting inflamed, and then the inflammation leads to more blood sugar disturbance, which then impacts onto the sleep. And we'll find that with lots of chronic health problems. It's like a perfect storm. Everything's coming in together, and it's almost becoming a bit of a cyclone that they're all feeding into each other all the time. And so sometimes we need to look at reducing inflammation in the body in order to get a better night's sleep.
And so what would you use to reduce inflammation? What in these circumstances, say, how would you reduce that inflammation?
So you could think about increasing your omega-3s in your diet. So that could be through consuming wild meats, organic eggs, oily fish, or things like flaxseed, hemp seeds. And there are some algae supplements that give really good vegan sources of omega-3 as well. So increasing your omega-3s can really help to reduce inflammation down. There are herbs that can help with inflammation. So things like turmeric, boswellia can help as well. Ashwagandha we spoke about before. Ashwagandha can actually help to reduce inflammation too. So we can use these antioxidant herbs. Antioxidants in your diet, so using lots of berries, green tea can help, and actually green tea is very rich in L-theanine as well. And we've spoken before about L-theanine. It increases GABA in our brain, and GABA helps us to feel nice and calm. So there's lots of ways that you can reduce inflammation. So, antioxidants, herbs, diet, etc. So it's back to that building block. It's that foundation of really good nutrition being so important. You can't build a treatment plan on rocky foundations. And there's no point in just taking something to make you sleep if you're not actually addressing all the lifestyle issues that are there.
Absolutely. And you're talking there about green tea and GABA. I have a favorite green tea, which is a GABA oolong, which has gone through a process that I think was created in Japan to increase GABA in the tea so that you ingest more GABA, which is great for feeling less stressed.
And oolong is also, it's incredibly antioxidant, isn't it? It supports metabolism and helps with weight loss. So that's quite interesting that they all tie in together. We'll often see that things all tie up.
Yeah, they do. And I actually gave some of this GABA oolong tea to somebody recently, and they absolutely loved it. You know, really fell in love with it. Didn't have that quite acrid taste sometimes that a green tea has, you know, so you're tempted to put some kind of sugar or honey in. Yeah, so it is interesting how these things come together, though.
I'm thinking there, it's making me think, as you're talking about that, of you know, I was thinking about antioxidants there and foods, and one of the foods I think that really ticks the boxes on all fronts would be Montmorency cherry. It's a sour cherry. And Montmorency cherry is naturally high in melatonin, and we know that melatonin, you can't buy it in the UK, but you can buy melatonin in some parts of the world. Melatonin really does help with sleep. So Montmorency cherry is a natural source of melatonin, and it is incredibly antioxidant. It's really highly anti-inflammatory, and there are several Montmorency cherry products on the market that can help with sleep issues. So that, to me, that ticks all the boxes. Again, we're seeing a food that does more than one thing. You know, so as I say, it's perfect storm in terms of what causes these problems, but actually foods and natural medicines actually fit into that because they do more than one thing. You know, they address things on lots of different levels, whereas I think pharmaceutical medications can be really potent. And, you know, I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with pharmaceutical drugs. There's some amazing drugs on the market for various health problems, but they just tend to do one thing. They're a bit of a one-trick pony, whereas natural remedies tend to be very multifactorial in how they work.
Yes, and with insomnia, just taking a sleeping tablet might get you off to sleep, but it doesn't actually address the root problem.
It doesn't address the root problem, unfortunately. And, you know, and I think, you know, there's a real shortfall in that. And, you know, unfortunately, GPs don't have the time to address the root problem either. You know, what can you do in 10 minutes? It's really hard to unpack, you know, a big case history in that time. And, you know, people come in and see me all the time and I'll say, did your doctor speak to you about your diet? No, they don't look at that. They don't have the time to make sure that somebody's eating regularly and properly and they're not shortfalling on any particular nutrients. They are tending to use something like first aid medicine, you know. As I say, there's nothing wrong with taking something to get to sleep if you're not sleeping, but night after night after night, not a great idea. It's like treating headaches, you know. If I have a headache, I would take a paracetamol because I only get about 1 or 2 headaches a year. But if you had a headache every day, you don't want to just take a painkiller for it. You want to try and figure out why you've got that headache and work at that level, you know, start addressing it a little bit differently. And I think that's where herbal medicine and natural medicine practitioners can work quite differently from GPs and orthodox practitioners.
Yes, and support the orthodox practitioners as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
And hopefully that would go both ways.
Yeah, I think we need both. And I think actually if we actually looked at the sort of lifestyle conditions, I mean, probably the majority of the things that GPs are trying to treat are probably quite lifestyle orientated, and they need a lifestyle approach. And if we actually had more emphasis on that within healthcare, let the doctors get on with the jobs of dealing with the things that they should be dealing with, and let practitioners like myself support people with lifestyle medicine and natural medicines, it would probably complement really nicely. I think it would work really, really well.
Absolutely. And I'm just thinking again about magnesium. We've talked about magnesium before, you and I, but just to recap about magnesium levels, a good way of getting magnesium into your system is to have a bath with magnesium flakes in it, isn't it?
Yeah, Epsom salts or magnesium flakes. But the thing to remember there is not to have it too hot, because our bodies cool down at bedtime. And if you know, I've had people before saying, have a really nice hot bath at bedtime. That's going to stimulate you know. Yes, have a bath at bedtime, but don't have a really hot bath.
Yeah.
Your body wants to cool down, you know, and that's usually a good indication for somebody. If they're starting to cool down, they're starting to chill, that probably means they actually need to go to bed. And actually having your bedroom at the right sort of temperature is really important as well, because you can't sleep in a hot room. You actually need your bedroom cooler. And in my house, I don't have any heating on in my bedroom, and we tend to, you know, I've got layers of covers so I can adjust them if necessary, but try to have an unheated bedroom. Try and be cool in the evening, nothing too warm. So yeah, Epsom salts in the bath, but you know, a warmish bath, you don't want to come out looking like a lobster.
Which I tend to do, I have to admit, when I have a bath. But I also don't like sleeping in a warm room. I don't have any heating on in my bedroom either, even in the winter in the UK here. But what I do tend to do, often just for comfort, I think, is have a hot water bottle.
Yeah, well, the hot water bottle is great because you can put it on a specific area of your body. So you can stick your feet onto a hot water bottle. Now, I can't stand falling asleep if my feet are cold. I can't do it. So nice. I think if you keep your feet warm and keep the rest of you cool, and definitely not an electric blanket. I don't know how anyone can sleep with an electric blanket on. I find it really uncomfortably too hot, but I also think that all that electric current stimulates me.
Yes,
and
exactly.
Because of it. So I think a traditional hot water bottle can be good, and you know, you can touch it onto bits that feel a bit cold, but I think the whole bed being hot is not always a good idea.
No, and also the hot water bottle, you're not going to forget to switch that off, and you're not going to wake up boiling in the middle of the night, but also it cools down. So it warms you up, you get nice and comfortable, you fall asleep, hot water bottle cools down, so everything is fine.
Absolutely, yeah. The only risk, I guess, is if it gets old and perished and you wake up to a puddle. But I can't think that's ever particularly happened. But that's the only sort of issue that I think you're going to have with a hot water bottle at night. I think it's a nice traditional thing to do, and it's quite comforting as well. So if you've got a geeky bit, you can put your hot water bottle on there.
Yeah, absolutely. It did nearly happen to me once, I have to admit, but it hasn't put me off them. Keren, fantastic advice and ideas and thoughts and information as ever. So if people are having problems with their sleep, look at what you're eating, look at your food, and remember that it's not just a question of just being maybe anxious and feeling wound up when you go to bed. There could be something else underlying all of it that needs attention.
Yeah, absolutely. Look at food as being part of, not food, look at your sleep as being part of that continuum of what you do. It's not, you're not a switch. You can't just go and flick a switch off at night, although I think some people are quite good at that. But your sleep is a reflection of everything that's going on in your life.
Yeah.
You know, we're whole beings with a very complex interplay of stuff happening under the surface that we just don't see. And you need to look at all of it. But as I say, if anyone's got any sleep problems, they're waking up at 3 or 4 in the morning, the first thing is to look at what you're doing at 3 or 4 in the afternoon. And that's a really good starting place for anyone that's having disrupted sleep.
I love it. Thank you so much, Keren. And again, you have a website at healthfoodandmore.co.uk and a YouTube channel and a blog, which has lots of advice as well.
Yeah, and during the present climate, we're doing Zoom consultations. I normally work face-to-face in clinic, but we are able to offer Zoom consultations for people as well. So anyone needing one-to-one support can get in touch with us that way.
Fantastic. Thank you very much yet again. Brilliant.
Okay, and JJ, I'm hoping to perhaps get one of those oolong tea bags from you at one point and try. I'd be very interested.
Loose leaf tea, my dear.
Loose
leaf tea. It's a very nice tea. I'll get you some. I'll buy you some.
That sounds great. Thank you very much.